What do you think of the Simone Biles thing?
I think she's really selfish. I was a gymnast, not Olympic, but I was also a Division I athlete all throughout college, and that this is just the deal. You get to the Olympics, you're representing the United States. I'm sorry, like, and that's the thing is like, if she had a history of mental breakdowns or panic attacks or whatever, she shouldn't have gone to the Olympics this year. It's they stated over and over her condition was not physical, but then they would also call it a medical reason, but then they ultimately would call it like a mental health thing. It's like, that's the fucking Olympics, man. Like, if you can't hack it at the Olympics, you shouldn't be competing on the Olympic team. And they really propped her up as this, like, yes, she's like one of the best, maybe the best gymnast ever, but like, I'm sorry, like, you have to just try. You have to do your best, even if it's not your best day. It's like, you have to just give it your best. Freaking Carrie Strug vaulted on a freaking sprained ankle in the 90s. So it's just like, I miss those athletes.
Remember back when the Olympics was about greatness and not mediocrity?
When sports were about greatness and not politics. But here's my concern. Like, I find myself, and like, look, I got fired from doing a sports sheet because I wouldn't shut my mouth about COVID and politics. But I almost find myself siding with her to some degree because, one, I argue she's the greatest athlete in her sport that we'll ever see. She's better at gymnastics than Tiger was at golf, Jordan was at basketball, LeBron was at sucking China's dick. She's better at those three things than anyone. And look, I'm a big fan of hers, which is why maybe I'm slow to fucking attack her. But I feel like she's been broken by this pussification, for lack of a better word, of America.
Yeah.
Where suddenly it's okay. Like when what's her name did it, Naomi Osaka did it at Wimbledon. It ties back to, and I bet you'll remember this, when Marshawn Lynch and the Seahawks went to the Super Bowl the first time, he is afraid of public speaking. And they kept interviewing him, and he's like, I don't want to do it. And they fined him. And Naomi Osaka got like that. And she basically said, in the French Open, she's like, she was having trouble. Then when Wimbledon came, she totally bowed out. And I honestly think that was her way of saying, you know what? Fuck you. Let's see who watches Wimbledon without me there. And then Serena goes out in the first round. And I actually took her side there, which is why I want to actually give Simone like at least a slight pass, because she's a victim of how stupid America is. She's believe that she's liberal. She's believing that there's a race war. She thinks and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm like that. Maybe I need to believe that because I still have faith in a few things. Maybe.
Like, without knowing her personally, it's hard to know if she like threw a fit and was entitled and was like, I'm just not doing it. It's not my day. Like, unless you know her personally, you can't really speak on that. Like, I just can't imagine like what would have to be going on for you to think it's okay to just dip out of the Olympics and just like leave your team like that.
Listen, I can't remember where this quote comes from, but the only thing that makes you a failure is deciding to quit. And
that's a great one, yeah.
So, and this is the other thing is like, who is the Vince Lombardi of our time? Like, we just don't have enough people in the sporting world specifically who is a real presence of leadership anymore. Like somebody who is unapologetically hard-nosed and dedicated to greatness. I mean, all of our talking heads in the sports world now are about causes, most of which are self-serving in some way. Nobody talks about putting the team before themselves in any inspirational way. Nobody talks about greatness being bigger than one person. I mean, we don't have that kind of leadership in our cultural lexicon the way that I feel like Vince Lombardi added to that, or Herb Brooks added to that, or any of these sort of great minds in these great sports moments had contributed. Even like Jordan. Has LeBron ever inspired people the way that Michael Jordan has? That's why I will never concede that LeBron is better than Michael Jordan, because I don't think LeBron has ever inspired people. Forget about lecturing people, but I don't think LeBron has ever inspired people to be great the way that Michael Jordan inspired people to be great.
True.
And what was the common theme about those people? Personal responsibility, do your job for the better of everybody else. And, it's kind of hard to like coach or talk up those kind of things when you're LeBron and you're going, well, the system is against us and the world is against us and the government is against us. And it's kind of hard to go back and go, all right, guys, let's pick ourselves up and win this championship. Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you get to the point where you're an Olympic athlete, you should be a little bit better than the average brainwashed person.
Well,
in this
listen,
Yeah, I'm
country.
sure.
It's when
I'm sure we're giving her too much of a pass. I mean, I even heard stories later that she was having a bad Olympics, so she's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm done with this. I'm not gonna win.
I think this,
and that sucked.
I think this proves
that's the thing.
one
Yeah,
thing.
if you're quitting, if you'd rather quit than
Fail.
than play second,
Yeah.
that's a pussy move. Like
Well,
that's.
I think that's
not
part
okay.
of the story that everyone's leaving out is that being molested builds character. And when they took that fucking doctor out who was diddling all these gymnasts, they lost their tenacity, okay? And so now they're just soft, unmolested little girls who are not champions. You got to go through the fire.
The ring of fire being your anus.
Yeah.
It's true.
You know,
struggle always causes greatness. And, speaking from I know, abuse causes greatness too. I know how I grew up.
Didn't that doctor say that in his defense? He's like, I make champions. I think he said something like that.
God.
But